welcome. Yes, my friends. This is the Vintage Edmonton Music Podcast, and I am your host, Rev Recluse, and welcome to the podcast. This is number 25, a golden anniversary of podcast, I believe, and I'm pleased as punch that everybody is here today. I'm going to do something a little bit different than I usually do with the podcast. I'm going to start the podcast as a precursor for the actual podcast and the artist I'm going to spotlight with a story about how I came to acquire this particular record. It is an epic. I think I'm going to call it an epic anyway. It's filled with pain, misery, bitterness, tragedy, heartbreak, sadness, but redemption and happiness. There's a lot of highs and lows with this, and I feel that this is a really good story to tell if you really want to know what a collector of vinyl goes through when he finds something, or he or she finds something that is a particular interest to them. I mean, any collector really, but in my case, a record collector, and I think it's a good story. It's like I said, it has a lot of those things in it. So I'm just gonna get to it and start it off. My wife and I, Mrs. Recluse, the lovely Mrs. Recluse, had a rare Saturday off, or I had a rare Saturday off from my job just recently. I'm usually working on the weekends, and we took advantage of that, going to our favorite haunts in thrift stores, flea markets, swap meets, whatever's going on that week. She's a collector as well as I am. She has her things that she's into, flatware, china, things like that. And we decided to go to one of our favorite spots here in Edmonton. It was an antique mall, and she went to go do her thing, and I went to go do my thing. Usually in antique malls, I don't look for vinyl. I usually kind of look for vintage Edmonton ephemera or curling ephemera, things like that. Yes, I'm a curler, by the way. Yes, curling ephemera. Thank you very much. I do. But, things like that. I don't look for vinyl so much in antique malls. That I tend to stick to the thrift stores and other places like that. But after I did my browsing, I went to one of the stalls in this antique mall that had a major chunk of vinyl. And I decided just to go check it out and see what was up there. There's a couple of jazz records that I'm still looking for to put in my collection. A couple of Ornette Coleman records and Albert Ayler records. So I decided to go down there and check it out and see, what they had. And I went through the jazz collection pretty quickly and didn't find anything. And I was about to turn out of the stall and go to the next stall, but when I saw as one of their covers on one of the parts of their vinyl display, it said Alberta Music. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go over there and I'm going to go check this out. Went to look into the Alberta section. Most of it was records that I already had, or things that I really wasn't interested in, wouldn't have been good for the podcast. And I was about, again, to turn around and head to the next stall, hit the next record to flip it over, and I found this record. And I'm going to read what I found on the record. It actually was on the back side rather than the front cover. But it says, with a couple of pictures, Patti James, that dynamic redhead, live at the Saxony Motor Hotel, Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, with a couple pictures of Patti James and an autograph, which I love to get when I get these types of records. And it says, "To Don and Nancy, Happy Klondike, 1975, Patti James. P.S. Please come again." Now, when I find things like this, I know I've mentioned this before, but it's true. I let out a squeal of happiness or delight. I really do that. I know people just can't believe it, but it's true. I do. And I did so when I found this. I couldn't believe my luck. This is the records that I really, really enjoy getting, and it's not necessarily even in vintage Edmonton, but any kind of records that are from this era. I love these types of records. And I let out a squeal of joy and happiness and snatched it up in my hot little hands, went down to the cashier, paid it off. I paid a little bit more than I usually pay for these types of records, but hey, it's live from the Saxony Hotel in Edmonton, Alberta, Klondike Days, 1975. I'm going to get it. So I did, and showed Mrs. Recluse, cried some more, happiness, tears picking this up, went home, did not play it immediately because I had a rough few days at work coming up, and I wanted to sit back and enjoy it, at my leisure and a day off. So I didn't play it for a couple of days. Finally, the days go by, and it's my day off. I kiss Mrs. Recluse as she goes off to work. I do all my chores, feed the cat, all those kinds of things. Make my pot of coffee, and I make my pot of coffee as strong as possible. Get that coffee, dance up the stairs to go up to my recording room where I have all of my vinyl and all of my record and music and things like that, musical instruments and recording equipment and all that. Get the record out, look at it, cry some more tears of joy, put it on the turntable, turn the speakers on, put the needle just about to where the turntable is, and then, my friends, the light turns on. And I realize, what I didn't realize when I was there to begin with, when I was buying it at the antique mall, that it wasn't, in fact, a live recording at the Saxony Hotel in 1975, but it was a souvenir of a record that Patti sold at the Saxony Hotel in Edmonton and during Klondike Days in 1975. And I let out a genuine heave of sobs when it finally hit me that was the case, and I put it on and the music started playing. And again, it's nothing against Patti, I played a lot of these types of records on the podcast, and I've listened to more, and I totally get what she was doing. She was selling a record of her, what a performance would be like at in Las Vegas, in this particular case in Edmonton for Klondike Days, and selling it as a souvenir. And I played a lot of these types of records on the podcast, so I totally get where she was coming from. I was upset that I didn't realize that at the time when I bought the record. I still would have bought the record, but nonetheless, I would have had a different perspective about it, I guess would be the correct way to put it when I bought the record. And it was compounded by the fact also that when the record actually played, it wasn't a very good pressing. You can hear a lot of the imperfections between the recording of the session itself, which was a session I'm sure it was just recorded live in the studio with her band at the time. And again, it's a live performance that you would have heard, at any nightclub, and that would be a great souvenir to sell at live performances. And I played it, a lot of imperfections, and the recording itself wasn't the greatest production wise. And I pretty much almost scrapped everything and said, well, I'm not going to do this. I've made a mistake. I'll apologize profusely. But I listened to it a little bit more, and I grew to really like Patti's voice, and I grew to really like the whole idea of what Patti was trying to do. And the more that I listened to it, the more that I said, I have to do a podcast of this anyway. This is a great monument to Patti, a great artifact at Edmonton, from this time in 1975. So I hope you're still with me there after that. So without further ado, the record is called Second Time Around by Patti, and there are, again, no credits whatsoever as far as who was playing on the record. I'm assuming it was her band in Las Vegas, where she was from and played most of the year. A lot of the blue-collar Las Vegas performers, artists, and singers and things of that nature would go around the country during the hot months, the summer months in Las Vegas, and ply their trade and kind of a circuit as well. And I'm sure Patti did the exact same thing as so many other Las Vegas musicians who came up to Edmonton and Calgary and Vancouver, Saskatoon, Regina during that circuit during the summer months with the festivals, with the Stampede down in Calgary and up here for the Klondike Days thing. I'm sure she did the exact same thing in a number of years. And she was canny enough, or smart enough anyway, to have a souvenir record that had the Patti James, the Dynamic Redhead, live at the Saxony Hotel. But like I said, there's zero credits whatsoever. I'm assuming this is her band in Las Vegas that was backing her. I'm sure that it was live in the studio or live in a nightclub with recording equipment. Because, like I said, the recording itself wasn't the greatest as well. I'm not sure. There was a lot of hips and pops and things like that. So I tried to clean it up as much as I could without deteriorating the recording anymore. So I hope you like that. Hopefully it's okay anyway. So then, yes, the first song I'm going to play for you tonight is a song called Second Time Around, which I'm assuming is a Patti James original or something along that, because again, no credits whatsoever. So without further ado, on PJR Records, this is Patti James with her band on a song called Second Time Around on the Vintage Edmonton Music Podcast.
Love is lovelier the second time around, just as wonderful, with both feet on the ground. It's the second time you've heard your love song sung. Makes you think perhaps that love like youth, it's wasted on the young. Love's more comfortable the second time you fall, like a friendly home the second time you call. Who can say what led us to this miracle we found? There are those who bet love comes but once, and yet I'm oh so glad we met the second time around. can say what led us to this miracle we found. There are those who bet love comes but once, and yet I'm oh so glad we met the second time
Welcome back to the Vintage Edmonton Music Podcast. That was Patti James from her album called Second Time Around, live, air quotes, live at the Saxony Hotel, which is now the Howard Johnson Hotel on Stony Plain Road. But live in 1975, quote, air quotes, at the Saxony Hotel in Edmonton, Alberta. And that was the title track, Second Time Around. Patti has a very sturdy voice, and again, she is a very blue-collar, and I use that term very, very affectionately, blue-collar Las Vegas nightclub performer. I can see her plying her trade in Las Vegas, playing the standards, the Great American Songbook, a couple of her own types of originals, and just giving it her all, a very Ethel Merman-esque kind of performance, and in places. And this is one of those songs I can hear her or picture her doing in my mind anyway. This is a song called Keep On Singing. Don't Stop Singing. This is Patti James giving it her all on the Vintage Edmonton Music Podcast.
Keep on singing, don't stop singing. You're gonna be a star someday. You're gonna make a lot of people happy when they come to hear you sing. My mama, she died when I was born. We lived in a one-room shanty, but Daddy tried to make me home. When I was only 6 years old, I was singing in the streets. People would throw me pennies so I could help Daddy make ends meet. He said, keep on singing, don't stop singing. You're gonna be a star someday. You're gonna make a lot of people happy when they come to hear you sing. He said, keep on singing, keep the bells a-ringing, spread your music from town to town. There's not enough love in this old world, so we're spreading our songs around. By the time that I was 10 years old, I was singing with a local band. Daddy's eyes were growing dim, but I didn't understand. He would be so proud of me every time he heard me sing. At night he'd call me to his side. My daddy would always say, he said, keep on singing, don't stop singing. You're gonna be a star someday. You're gonna make a lot of people happy when they come to hear you sing. He said, keep on singing, keep the bells a-ringing, spread your music from town to town. There's not enough love in this old world, so spread your songs around. Well, we didn't have much money, but things didn't seem so bad. I felt just like the queen of the world when I was with my dad. Then one rainy November night, Daddy called me to his side. He held me with his trembling hands, right before he died. He said, keep on singing, don't stop singing, you're gonna be a star someday. I'm crying, Daddy, you're gonna make a lot of people happy when they come to hear you sing. He said, keep on singing, keep the bells a-ringing, spread your music from town to town. There's not enough love in this old world, so we're spreading our songs around. Hear us spreading our songs around. We are going from town to town. Hear us spreading our songs around. We are spreading our songs around. We are spreading our songs around.
Welcome back to the Vintage Edmonton Music Podcast. That was Patti James with a song called Keep On Singing off of her LP Live, air quotes, at the Saxony Hotel, Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, but called Second Time Around. That was a song called Keep On Singing. Now, the one I'm going to play for you is a little bit more arty. I think this is her in her set. If we're going to do a metaphorical set that she's playing on this record, this would be the one where she kind of gets a little bit more esoteric and arty than what the nightclub guest and the crowd, the audience is really prepared for. I'd like to think anyway. So this is an interesting song, and this is my favorite song off the record too. This is a song called "Had I Stayed Too Long at the Fair." So this is Patti James on the Vintage Edmonton Music Podcast.
I wanted the music to play on forever. Have I stayed too long at the fair? I wanted the clown to be constantly clever. Have I stayed too long at the fair? I bought me blue ribbons to tie up my hair, but I couldn't find anybody to care. The merry-go-round is beginning to slow down. Have I stayed too long at the fair? Oh, mother dear, I know you're very proud. Your little girl in gingham is so far above the crowd. No, Daddy dear, you never could have known that I'd be so successful and so very much alone. Here in New York, I'm many miles away from people who are dear to me. Here in New York, I'm learning every day just how sad a carnival can be. I wanted to live in a carnival city with laughter and love everywhere. I wanted my friends to be clever and witty. I wanted somebody to care. I thought it was easy to capture success. But now I'd be willing to settle for less. The merry-go-round is beginning to taunt me. Have I stayed too long at the fair? Oh, the music has stopped, and the children must go. No, have I stayed too long at the fair? Oh, there's nothing to win, and there's no one to love me. Have I stayed too long at
Welcome back to the Vintage Edmonton Music Podcast. That was Patti James from the LP called Live, air quotes, at the Saxony Hotel, Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, with a song called Have I Stayed Too Long at the Fair, my favorite track off this LP. And again, there's zero credit, so I have no idea, other than Patti, obviously. I think it's who's also playing the piano. I have no idea who is in the band. So if anybody knows about Patti that I don't know about, or any kind of information at all, get me up at rev@vintageedmonton.com and let me know what's going on with that. The one that I'd love to play, and again, if we're going to do the metaphorical set list, this is the great one to end the album on and the set as well. There is no title other than the country medley. So what it is Patti singing the country hits of the day, starting off with Take Me Home Country Roads, which was the first 45 I ever bought, by the way, when I was 8 years old, I think. This was the first 45. But yes, starting it off with Take Me Home Country Roads by John Denver, and segueing away into a number of different songs in the country genre that were very popular at that time. But the show-stopping final song and on the LP, and I'm sure on her set, and it's a great way to end the LP. I love the fact that in Patti's career, she married well right around this time, about 1975, 1976, in Las Vegas, and retired from the music scene not too long after this album was made. I'm thinking the late 70s, and became a dealer at a casino or a number of casinos in Las Vegas, and became a very, very well-known dealer in Las Vegas, and achieved a completely different type of fame. Retired after, I believe, about 25, 30 years of being a dealer, being one of the most well-known dealers in Las Vegas, and retired to her home with her husband. I thought that was the coolest thing in the world, to completely change careers like that. I'm sure a lot of people did that in Las Vegas, but it was a great kind of a coda, a final chapter to me reading about Patti and listening to the album. So I thought that was pretty cool. So without further ado, this is Patti James with the Country Medley here on the Vintage Edmonton Music Podcast.
Country songs, they take me home to the place where I belong. West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home country songs. Almost heaven, West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountains, Shenandoah River. Life is old there, older than the sea, warmer than the sunshine flowing through the trees. Country songs that take me home to the place where I belong. West Virginia, mountain mama, take me home. Country songs. Oh, please release me. Let me go. 'Cause honey, I don't love you anymore. To live a lie would be a sin. Release me and let me love again. Don't look so sad. I know it's over, but life goes on, and this old world still keeps on turning. Let's just be glad we had this time to spend together. There's no need to watch the bridges that we're burning. Lay your head upon my pillow. Hold your warm and tender body close to mine. Hear the whisper of the raindrops blowing soft against the window. Make believe that you love me one more time. For all the good times. Take the ribbons from my hair, shake it loose and let it fall, blowing soft against your skin like the shadows on the wall. Come and lay down by my side till the early morning light. All I'm asking is your time. Help me make it through the night. I don't care what's right or wrong. Never try to understand. Let the devil take tomorrow. Lord, tonight I need my man. Yesterday is dead and gone, and tomorrow's out of sight. Lord, it's sad to be alone. Help me make it country songs. They take me home to the place where I belong. West Virginia, mountain mama, take me home. Country songs, they take me home to the place where I belong. West Virginia, mountain mama, take me home. Country songs, take me home right now. Take me home, take me home. Here comes, take me home, take me home, take me home, take me home.
Welcome back to the Vintage Edmonton Music Podcast. That was Patti James with a rousing end to the LP and in the set, I'm sure, and the podcast, I guess. That was the country medley. And I wanted to tell the story as long as it was because it's a great snapshot of what it's like to be a collector. It doesn't matter what kind of collector that you are. It could be anything. But for me, obviously, it was records, and it makes it so much fun, despite the disappointment I had when I finally realized what I had in my hands wasn't a live recording, because I learned a lot more about Patti. I learned a lot more about the Las Vegas scene in the 70s, and made it all the better when I listened to it. And I really wanted to get this out for you fine people. So I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I would be remiss. Yes, my friends, I would be remiss without mentioning I am on iTunes. You can subscribe to me on iTunes. Yes, I am on the TuneIn Radio app. You can subscribe to me on the TuneIn Radio app. You can get me also on Podomatic and subscribe to me there. You can get me on Google Play Music as well. You can get the podcast there. I will possibly, it's in the works, but it's a very good possibility it's going to happen, be on a podcast network. That's going to be coming up hopefully in the fall. I will let all of you fine people know about that when it actually happens. So without further ado, I don't think I'd said it that much in this podcast. I think it's number 3 or 4. I'm not sure. Anyway, without further ado, I'll see y'all later.